Today, we're diving into one of the most important topics for Florida home buyers and home sellers, the top 5 issues we find during a home inspection. Hey everyone, it's Jason with Hope Home Inspections, and today we're joined by one of our lead inspectors, Eric, who's going to break down some common issues in Florida homes that might go unnoticed. So let's get right into it.
The first common issue that we see is the roof. When I'm checking the roof, depending on the type of roof, whether it's a shingle roof or a tile roof, we want to look for damage to the shingles or to the tiles. Any damage to those shingles, with a shingle roof, any damage to them, you still have an underlayment that's protecting you, but it could be an exposed nail. And so when that shingle gets lifted up, you could end up having an exposed nail from the previous shingle underneath of it. So that nail will end up getting rusty and then eventually could potentially cause a roof leak into your attic and then potentially into your house. We fly a drone. I do a couple laps, try to get in as close as possible. I don't want to walk on your roof, especially if it's a tile roof. You really only have a small section that is safe on a tile roof. With the drone, it allows me to get really up close and personal and see all those crevices and ridge lines without damaging your roof. So the roof flashing is typically, that's where your roof and your wall are connected. And that could be at your front entry and the back entry. It just all depends on your style roof that you have. But roof flashing or kick-out flashing is really important in making sure that that's sealed up. A lot of the times that's where we see a lot of leaks is in those ridges. We always go into everybody's attic and I want to see, hopefully I can see that roof decking to see if there is any staining going on, potentially that could be up there. We also will look at the insulation because your insulation, if it's blown in insulation, it's this nice pretty blanket of like snow. When you get a roof leak, it is very evident in your insulation. You'll see a solid drop. Common issue number 2 is plumbing. The biggest thing is the drain lines, making sure that you don't have any S-traps. S-traps, basically, it's kind of a double bubble. A lot of times we see in remodeled houses, you will see a corrugated drain line. A lot of times when you do remodels, those don't line up and you have to use an accordion drain connection. With that, it just builds up, especially at a kitchen sink, because people put all kinds of stuff down a kitchen sink that you really shouldn't be. Dishwasher drain lines, we really like to see a high loop is what it's called. So as that drain line is coming off of the sink for the dishwasher, we want to make sure it goes straight up and then goes down into the dishwasher. As you're putting stuff down into that sink, it could potentially end up in the dishwasher drain line and go back into your dishwasher. And a lot of times that's how, when you open your dishwasher, it gets that foul smell. You just need to literally add a high loop. The third most common issue is electrical issues and wiring issues. The biggest thing is double taps that actually cause issues when you're trying to get insurance on the house. So a double tap is basically 2 wires that go into one breaker, and it's not designed for that. There's only certain circumstances where 2 wires can go into a breaker, but the biggest thing is 2 wires going into a small 15, 20 amp breaker. Definitely not allowed. Insurance companies will drop you right off the bat of the hat. Easy repair for an electrician to come out, add a breaker if you can. Worst case scenario, you may have to expand the whole breaker, but a lot of times they can just add 1 more breaker slot and simply add that wire to that breaker. Sometimes you will get slot cover knockouts. So at the bottom of your electrical panel and all around it, you have what's called knockouts, these little circle spots. And that's typically where your wires go into and connect to the breakers inside. We can't have any of those have a void where somebody has popped it out and left it, not ran any wires. We want everything in that box sealed up so that way a kid can't put his fingers in there or anything else, or even critters get inside your electrical panel, and then you take that thing off and you got either bees. We have found bees nest inside electrical panels. So keeping that nice and sealed protects your wires longevity wise, so that way there isn't any deterioration to them. And with the outlets, we're testing in the bathroom areas, specifically in your kitchen, making sure that those outlets within a 6-foot reach of your kitchen sink or any sink, that it should be GFCI protected, basically stating if you put something in there and you're stepping in water, it will trip before you get electrocuted. It is a safety hazard, especially if you have children. Last thing you want that is in a bathroom and they get electrocuted. Also, insurance companies will look out for that as well. We want to make sure that every house is up to code and safe for everybody to live in. The 4th most common issue is termites and wood rot around the house. When I'm doing a termite inspection or a WDO inspection, I'm typically looking for any wood to soil contacts. So if you have a stucco house, we're really not looking for that. We could be looking for mud tubes on a stucco house. That would indicate that you have subterranean termites if you have mud tubes. The other termite that we have down here in Florida is drywood termites. So those are typically going to infest up in your attic areas and stuff like that. You have lights on at night. You wake up the next morning and you have just thousands of these little bugs around a window or a light fixture. That's an indication of a swarm has happened. Now, it could be ant swarms, it could be termite swarms, but Both can be destructive to a house. Termites obviously a lot more because they feed a lot more and regurgitate a lot more than ants do. Here in Florida, not everybody puts a storm door up, and so they just have that solid steel door on the exterior. And a lot of times that trim right on the weather stripping is the first thing that gets rotten out just because of the amount of rain that we have. So again, adding those gutters helps keep some of that rain away, but it will end up rotting out the bottom pieces of those exterior doors. So that's the most common area. And then on older homes, if you have wood soffit, basically that trim around their house just under the gutters, that soffit, if that is wood, a lot of times we do see that as wood rot. The best thing to help with any wood on the exterior of your house is make sure it's painted. If it's always painted and has that membrane around it, it will be protected from ants and from termites. We have thousands and thousands of bugs, but a regular pest control company like Green Team can help you out and keep those areas nice and clean. The fifth most common issue, HVAC and HVAC systems. So on an AC unit, we do obviously inspect the outside unit. On an outside unit, the biggest thing we want to make sure is that insulation, that copper line that goes into the house, that has a nice insulation on that. If that is not well insulated, you will lose energy efficiency. Any part of that exposed is just less energy efficiency. So we want to make sure that that foam is in good spots, as well as the line, how that chase line goes into the house. When it penetrates the house, we want to make sure that that's nice and sealed. Critters will follow that line right into your house if it's not sealed up properly, as well as making sure the unit is actually bolted down to a concrete pad of some sort. Here in Florida, we have hurricanes, we have high winds. So the last thing you want is that thing being blown over in an 80-mile-an-hour windstorm. The unit on the inside, what I really look for is making sure that your filter is replaced on a regular basis. When I pull out that filter, I want to make sure that it's nice and clean. Replacing that either once monthly if you have a lot of kids and pets, or every other month, or even every 3 months at best if you don't have a whole lot of activity in the house. But I'm a big believer in twice a year getting that unit inspected by a licensed inspector, a licensed HVAC company. And they will clean your coils and make sure that there's no buildup on your coils. Here in Florida, we have a very humid state, so that thing will produce a lot of condensation. And when you're producing that much condensation, we want to make sure that it's leaving the house in that drain line and not building up inside the unit itself. With that much condensation, you will get mold. And so we want to keep the area nice and clean and free of any mold potential that could grow from that. Whether it's air movement on an AC unit, if you don't have all of those lines that go into the AC unit that are sealed up properly, I want to see that airflow. If it's going into the unit and bypassing the filter, that's an issue. You know, we don't want unfiltered air going through your AC unit. So honestly, this is why having a detailed inspection is so critical. Here in Florida, the environment works against you, so catching little things early will help prevent bigger issues longer down the road.
So whether you're in the process of buying or selling your home, reach out to Hope Home Inspections. Our goal is to make sure everyone knows exactly what they're buying. Anything we missed, let us know down in the comments if there's any other common issues that you see in your Florida home.